Hi, my name is Malo, and this is an episode of BitmonkeyTV. Today, we talk about how to start a podcast in 2022 with a special guest in Gilberto from the ClockNOut Podcast. He's on episode 99, on the cusp of 100, and it takes a lot of commitment to get to that point. So let's give a warm welcome to Gilberto here. Happy to have you on the show. How you doing today?
So far, so good. And yourself? Thanks for having me on.
Doing good. Yeah. Dude, thanks for coming on. Thanks for carving out the time. I really enjoyed our, being a guest on your show yesterday.
Yes,
loved the way you loved your questions. Loved the format, loved the length, you were very mindful of the audience and just, it was a great time. So I'm looking forward to more for sure.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And sorry, everybody, that was a glitch out the gate. It happens occasionally. I'll have to edit that one on the post, but so today we're going to focus this episode around the topic, right? How to start a podcast. Let's play off the audience here a little bit. I don't know if you've watched too many of our streams, but we try to chime in, answer questions, or leave the floor open for anybody to ask questions, whether it's about the topic or whether it's for you personally. So please, the floor is open. Anybody watching this stream, feel free to shoot your questions in the comments and we'll get to them anytime we check back on those comments. So good evening. What's up, Gary? LFG. What's good, Jonathan? Thanks for tuning in. Good evening to you. All right. Without squirrel ado, I want to get straight into it. Clocking out. Yes. When did you first start? Episode 1. Do you remember that day, that week, that month? I'd love to hear all about, that point in time.
Yes. Oh, let me fix my camera. Maybe I'm a little.
So I move it full screen when I ask questions.
Oh, all right.
So
it threw me off.
I was like, yeah.
All right. So basically, clocking out. The way that it all started, and when I first did it, my first episode, I put it out sometime around September of 2019, right around the beginning of COVID. But before I did that, I was doing music, and basically what happened was I was an independent music artist. I was really into trying to learn how to do things 100% independent. So I started dabbling behind the scenes in the music industry, everything from producing to managing and just learning things as I went along. And the more that I learned things, the more I started getting access to more things in the music industry and understanding contracts and how it really worked. And I didn't like the way it was going. I didn't like the route it was on. I didn't like how basically you had to have a gimmick. A lot of the times I was offered something, but they would have complete control of things like my name, my appearance. And I was just a product. I was like this thing that would be basically under a label, and I had to do what they said when they said it and use my talent, my time, and all my energy basically to build something they had. And there was really nothing that, unless you invested your own money yourself, there was nothing in the end that would make it worth it. And I didn't like none of that. So I shifted just getting the attention all on me as a single independent artist. And I decided to shift it and basically use my recording equipment and make a recording studio, but with the hopes of basically taking independent artists, having them come and take what I learned as far as gaining attention and trying to build a brand for music as independent music artists, and help other people who were trying to do that themselves and try to steer them away from what was basically the industry was tempting people to get a contract or to sign a deal. And I was trying to show them that being that I saw what they were doing, it's something that anyone could do by themselves. And that led me to making Clocking Out. I went from just doing this myself just because I like doing it and like talking to people and like learning everyone's story, to I started thinking maybe I can turn this into something and document it while I'm learning from everybody and their experiences. I can share it via audio, video, just like Gary Vaynerchuk. I'm sure everybody watching or anyone listening to this is a Gary Vaynerchuk fan or part of the V Friends community. But everything that Gary said, I basically implemented that to what I was doing and mixed it up with my idea of wanting to help others. But I didn't know really how to do it. So I figured forms of audio recording, being that podcast started taking off, and doing things like recording videos for YouTube. That's how basically it all started. And I came up with the name Clocking Out is because every time I had a job, I was always trying to leave. I was always trying to leave work so I can go record music or go record some videos or something with my friends. I never wanted to be at work, so I was always known for clocking out. So the more and more I thought about it, I thought it was catchy, that it's something that I want to do. I want to help people clock out of that basic 9-to-5 job that they are really not, that they don't have a passion for, and it has nothing to do with what they really want to do in life. They just do it because they get stuck in that loop of having to pay bills and maintain a lifestyle, you know? So I wanted to do something to help people get knowledge on whatever it is that they're interested in doing, and help them find their way of clocking out of something that they're not trying to do at all. So that's basically how it all started. I'm talking a lot, so stop me whenever. But when it came to recording,
it's good, man. I'll let it keep rolling.
Yeah, when it came to the first episode, I recorded it. I don't know how many times. I didn't do it live. I would just record it, edit afterwards. The more and more I would record, I would find issues with it. I didn't like that I was like, and this, and I would stop, pause, or my breathing. There was a lot of things I would nitpick at. So for a good couple of months, I kept recording. And then I was like, you know what? The only way that this is going to happen is if I just put it out there. And the only way I'm going to put it out there is if I just record live. So what I started doing was I would put at the time, no one was following me. I made a brand new account. And I started recording live on Instagram, and I would just record myself, basic stuff, microphone, and just record a regular episode and put it out and tell myself, being that I went live, whoever saw it, didn't see it, whatever, it's already recorded. I did it. I'm going to put it out there. So I just started doing that. Little by little, the more that I did it, the reason I stayed focusing on a separate account compared to my personal account was I noticed that the thing that was holding me back the most from posting stuff and sharing was me being judged by people who I knew personally, whether it was family, friends, coworkers, whatever. So I had the idea of, you know what, let me just start with a brand new account. Let me only follow or like or comment on things related to the subject that I'm talking about or that I'm interested in, so that the algorithm can pick that up, and then I can actually try and start building a list of followers and people that I follow that I can actually network with and bounce ideas off with and learn from their experiences as well, instead of me hesitating to post something because I'm thinking of who knows who is going to look at this and say something and think something. So I thought it was a good idea to just start with a fresh account. And that's how I started. I just started recording. I would just talk about basic stuff. And when I started seeing that it was like a repetitive thing, that it wasn't really educating anyone, and I started wondering why there wasn't, I was like, I got all this content that I'm putting out, what I called content, because I'm recording every day, and I thought more was more, but I was putting out more of the repetitive stuff. I wasn't doing anything interesting. I wasn't sharing anything really informative. So then I started thinking, you know what? I talk to myself a lot about my ideas and problems. What if I flipped it and just made it like I was talking to myself, but instead I shared it with social media, like on Twitter? Whenever I put out a tweet, you're going to have a good day, stay positive and focused. I'm literally just talking to myself. But I figured if I flipped it and I just shared it with other people as if I was talking to them and I didn't make it about me, I can start building an engagement. The more and more I did that, little by little, people started tuning in and listening to what I had to say. Not that I was an expert on giving financial advice or that I'm a therapist to listen to what to do for stress and anxiety, but I was just going off of what I experienced, what worked for me, and what I wanted to share with other people, that maybe it would work for them and maybe it wouldn't. And the more I realized that I stayed to what I knew and what I actually had experience in and what actually worked for myself, and I could talk about from firsthand experience, that was attracting more people. It started off slowly and it started building up, and then it led to what it is now. For a while I was stuck because my whole plan when I started this, like I said, it was in 2019. I had a little home studio that was made just for audio recording, but I arranged it a little bit to make it into a podcast studio. And the whole plan was to set up cameras and do live stream. Being that was the first thing I did was live stream myself. I was like, if I live stream with people here, that'll be the best thing. I'll have content. We'll be here talking. I was a fan of, I'm still am a fan of Joe Rogan and his podcast and how he does stuff. So I was like, I want to make my own version of that. So I did that, and then COVID hit. So then that whole plan went to crap because nobody was trying to meet in person with nobody. So I had to think of something different. So that's when I started jumping into the Web3 space, where I started learning more about NFTs and this and that. The more I started learning about that, I started falling into communities. The more I fell into communities, I started learning that the communities, despite what was going on with COVID, were still able to stay really connected with each other and communicate with each other, regardless the distance or the time or whatever. They found a way through either Discord, through a thing that I became really addicted to, which is Twitter, and all the other social media platforms. But the ones that I saw that really stuck out the most was Twitter, because it's like real, like it's on time. It's like a large text message or something. From that to the communities in Discord, I started seeing people building really strong relationships with each other, not because they were just there with each other and said good morning and good night, but because they were actually sharing information with each other that was actually useful and beneficial to one another. And if someone jumped into the community, it wasn't like, oh, you don't know what you're doing, we don't have time to explain for you, you should have been here from the start. They actually take the time to teach you and go through the steps just like they did, so that you can catch up and you know the lingo, or you know or understand the technology behind the Web3 space and crypto and NFTs and so on and so forth. So through those communities and joining all that, I learned, one, how to communicate better with people. I learned, two, that everybody was stuck in a rut because of COVID. I wasn't the only one. And I noticed that everyone was basically in a point in time where they were trying to create something new and work with other people that were trying to just network with each other and create and build something from nothing. So that really attracted me, because it was like perfect timing. It's like, all right, I just thought I had this great idea to do something, and COVID is stopping me from making my idea happen. I have to think of a way to fix this problem. And social media was the thing. It was networking with people and communities in the Discord, talking to people basically every day. I saw Gary Vaynerchuk mention that when he first started, he was on Twitter every day talking to everyone. So that's what I did. Literally, you can catch me all hours of the day on Twitter. Like every chance that I get, I look at it, and I try to stay in contact with as many people who are answering me back. And I noticed through that, my engagement builds up, my following builds up. And the more honest and upfront I am with people, having regular day-to-day conversations, but actually listening to what they're saying and responding with something related to their situation or whatever it is that they just finished saying, not just and then out of nowhere, like, oh, okay, well, have a good day. I noticed that the more that you engage with them and you actually take the time to read what they're saying, and actually a few minutes to just go back and forth with them and really listen to them, that's all people want, is to be listened to. And when I did that, I learned more, but I started understanding, like, okay, I can actually build from this if I just talk to people daily, no matter who it is. And every time I do an episode or a podcast or a stream, I make it something related to what these people are telling me. And I try to make it beneficial. You know, I listen to everybody's problems, and I was trying my best to come up with a solution. And with that, you can work on something. You can start a business off of something like that. So the more that I started learning what everyone had a problem with, everyone's problem was they didn't have enough time, or they don't have enough money, or they can't find a job they really like, or they have a job that it's paying good, but their life is making them pay this, and like all these different problems. And the more I looked at it, I was like, yo, if you stop looking at the differences from everybody and only pay attention to the similarities, you'll see that all of us are looking for the same thing. Like, we all just want to be able to do what we enjoy doing and get paid for it. And we think it's impossible, but yet we go on social media and everything, and we see all these other people who, not for nothing, are probably less capable than we are to understanding some stuff, or have less experience in life than we do doing things, but yet they're living the extravagant life of doing this and this. And the only difference is that they're putting themselves out there, or they have a consistency of putting themselves out there, and they're not afraid of being judged or people saying this and that. So the more I understood that, I was like, you know what, I got to do the same thing. I got to put myself out there more. I got to share what I've been doing. For 3 years now, I've been recording myself from audio, video, and I haven't shared any of the video stuff. The times that I've had anxiety breakdowns, that I've stressed out, my car accident that I was in a good year or so ago, just a lot of stuff. But I documented all this stuff, and I kept telling myself, no one wants to see this. But the more that I looked at it, I was like, yo, you know what? I look at it myself, and I can see a growth. If I put that out there, I know there's somebody out there that's going to relate to it. I could learn something beneficial from it. So that's basically, I know I'm talking a lot and I'm rambling. You got to stop me, man. But
No, it's all
Basically,
good. So you've actually answered a few of my intro questions I had for you. Like one of
see,
which
this
was
should stop me.
what motivated you to start your own podcast, and you nailed that off the bat, right? And I love how meaningful your name is, right? It's not just another name that you thought of on the fly. It's something that's actually very meaningful to you, and that's rare. You know, that's very rare in a name. Usually somebody will throw something up against the wall and see if it sticks, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when you discover somebody who starts something and the name is so meaningful from its foundational level, like that's why you had me one from day one. I may not tune in to every episode as soon as it's released, but I do catch up on it now ever since I've discovered you. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
And I want to roll into, so before we actually roll into that, shout out to your introduction. It's fucking phenomenal, man. It's fire. You like, oh, that's fire. Like, we'll get into certain questions related to the introduction, but what was your biggest difficulty? And I think you kind of answered this in a way, but I'd like to start it off fresh. What was your biggest difficulty or hurdle to start back in September of 2019?
The biggest thing was being that I was so used to my personal accounts and just posting up like stuff for people I knew. Not to say I was fake, but it's like I said, I did music. And when you do music, whether you like it or not, you build, or even in social media or content creating, you tend to make this persona, this character that you turn into whenever you're in front of the camera and stuff. The things you say, the way you talk, your hand move, all that. Like, it's not that you're being fake, but it's just like what people are used to seeing from you. So you never want to be that like down, depressed type person or nothing like that. And I started noticing that the more I was trying to gain people's attention or keep their attention, that I thought they were like, it's just they were bored. They were going through their phone. But then I thought of it, I was like, yo, they're not paying attention to me because I'm not saying anything that's worth listening to. And at the time, I just saw that a lot of people were making things for attention, that it was obvious. They would, like all the people with tattoos on their face doing music videos from Tekashi 6ix9ine and like all these, not to talk anything bad, but it's like you saw a certain trend that certain things were happening, not because they had a specific meaning, but just because it was like, all right, everybody else is doing it, let me do it bigger and better than them and do this and do that. And I didn't like that. That's basically what I kept seeing on my phone. Every time I turned it on, it wasn't who was putting in the most work or who was the most talented. It was who's willing to make the biggest ass of themselves for a few minutes and who could keep it up for the longest. So I stopped posting for a while, and I was like, how can I think of doing something where I'm being honest about, if I have a bad day, I have a bad day. And if I want to share it, I share it. And it's not because, oh, woe is me, but it's because I honestly feel like I spend a lot of time alone and I talk to myself, and I'm always like trying to figure out my own problems in my head. And I'm pretty sure there's other people like that. But when you're in your own head, you don't think about nobody else and nobody else's problems until they all come around. But it's not until I'm actually about to post something that I start thinking like, yo, we are literally in everybody's phone. It's just getting them to stop and look at you. Like I have this thing that I came up with that I say a lot, that I look at the internet like a highway. And while you're on the highway, it's like there's all these exits, which are the apps that you're on, and there's billboards. And it's like, it's your job to come up with an attractive enough billboard to stop somebody and make them go in your exit so that they can look at your profile, your page, and look at what you got going on. But in my head, it's like, yo, there's people that are willing to break their neck and get into an accident just to watch something. And when they get there, they're like, I did all that for this. Like, it's like, and then they want to veer off and they don't care. So I have a weird way of thinking about it. But I'm like, what if I found a way to actually have people come, stay, and relax and not be stressed out and feel like, yo, they don't have to just come across the billboard or hope that exit comes up, but they can actually find a way directly there. Or they'll be like, you know what, I don't have to worry about all the what is it called, like the dancing for food type thing or anything like that. Like, this is a real genuine thing. He's being honest, he's sharing. So it took a while to get a following for people to like hit me up and be like, yo, I appreciate you saying this, or sometimes I feel this way also, or I thought I couldn't do nothing. Like, I'm 32 years old and I stress about my age and what I'm trying to do now. I feel like it's a young person's game. I also feel like putting yourself on social media is a young person's game. But again, it's something that it's just making me overthink, because then there's people my age or younger that are living a life because they're doing all this stuff. And it's like, if they could do it, so can I. What's the difference besides for just the fear that I have of putting myself out there? So that's the main thing that stopped me. And I feel like I would have gotten over sooner, is the fear of putting myself out there and just being okay with someone watching either what I'm saying or what I'm doing and calling it stupid or saying I'm dumb or making fun of me, and me not knowing who the hell it is, or even if I do know who it is, just being like, who cares? It is what it is. As long as I'm happy and it brings me some joy, even for a little bit, I don't care. But if that's the thing the number one thing that I had a big trouble and a hurdle getting over was my fear of putting myself out there and just being open to judgment, honestly.
Man, I chimed in there with my head nod. I was about to say, so we're very similar. That was my biggest hurdle as well. Didn't want to put myself out there. Like, it's crazy. Something as simple as that can be so complex and intimidating, where everything else seems to have been a breeze, right? Like, the technical difficulties, they come and go. The hours spent, I'm sure you've spent them as well, learning about audio, video, how to best connect the two and work them in parallel. Maybe you want to use one that has both, or you want to use your own audio versus visual and bring them together. Like, thank you for sharing that, though. I don't want to squirrel too much. So that's a huge, I think a huge thing, and it should be spotlighted. Like, we should clip this and share it with the world, because we all have the same fears. I feel like most of us do, right? Especially when it comes to putting our face out there. And I love that you've taken that approach of being yourself. You came up with this name rather than coming up with it. Like, I guess, let me rephrase that. It's a meaningful name. I get what I'm saying, right? Yeah. Didn't know how to word that any better, but just thank you for sharing. So, with starting your podcast, what was easier that you thought would have been more difficult? Like, whether it's technical, mental, like, what was so easy that you initially looked at and you're like, wow, this is going to be a big hurdle, right? Aside from putting yourself out there, unless that was it.
No, that was one of my biggest fears, was putting myself out there. One of the biggest hurdles, as far as that, I thought I was going to be banging my head against to figure out. And again, this is probably something else other people do. When you want to get into something, the first thing you do is you look it up on Google or YouTube. I'm pretty sure that people do the same thing. And if they're not trying to get like as soon as you Google, how do I, whatever, it'll give you like 9 easy steps or whatever the hell it is of doing. And it's like you click on it and you read all these words and all these softwares and programs and computers and cameras and all, and you're like, what the hell? And then you go to YouTube, and then it's even worse when you go to YouTube and you watch a video, because you'll watch a video on somebody you really admire who's a really big content creator. Mine, before I was really in deep with Gary's stuff, I really had a thing for vlogging, and the person that made me fall in love with vlogging, I'll never get tired, even to this day, I still rewatch all his stuff, is Casey Neistat. I was hooked on Casey Neistat's vlogging style, the whole tripod out, and having, instead of it being all close up like this, it had a more like natural, like you have your own cameraman type feel. And I fell in love with that. I fell in love with the fact that he was able to put out this content and the quality of it and the consistency of it alone, by himself, on a daily basis. He would literally wake up at the crack of ass and then go record something and do enough within his day, in the first half of his day, to get back and have enough content to edit it and put it out, make a video the day of. And he did this consistently for I don't know how long, but I fell in love with the fact that I'm like, yo, this dude is making something really simple, but yet it's getting my attention and I want to watch it every day. I have no idea why I'm like, I can't miss a vlog. I have to watch it today. Meanwhile, it was just his natural day. Like, I'm going to go skateboard to the office. We get to the office. I'm going to break this camera because I don't like it. We break the camera. Then it was the simplest stuff. But then the more and more I watched it, I started noticing that he was sharing like useful information in the videos, but like in his own way. So one thing that I saw that I thought I was going to go crazy for after watching his stuff, I saw he was using DSLR cameras. I saw he was using Adobe Illustrator, Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Editor, and Final Cut Pro, and I didn't have none of that, and I didn't have the money for it. And I'm like, I can't do these videos. So I started really like knocking myself down, and I'm like, I have to get that camera, I have to get that microphone, I have to have that set up, I have to have this type of quality, I have to, and that was messing me up a lot. And it wasn't until like, again, like with recording live, I got fed up, and I'm like, you know what, I for a while I had so many people supporting me, like, yo, we can't wait for this, we can't wait for that, but I wasn't putting nothing out. And I'm like, yo, I'm tired of gassing people up and talking about all these great ideas and not doing it. So I was like, you know what? I got my old iPhone. Actually, I'm actually using it right now. My old iPhone 10. I got that. And I just, throughout the day, I woke up and I started recording. When I woke up, when I went wash my mouth, whether I said something, or I didn't, I just wanted to get used to the repetitiveness of recording myself and not care about the quality or what I was using. So then the more I did that, I started getting tired of, okay, I ran out of memory on my phone. I got to port it to my computer. I started doing that. Then I started looking at the videos. And then little by little, I started getting tired of just seeing it there. That I'm like, this would go good if we just went with this video. Let me just put it together. So I put it together. And then all I did was use iMovie. And I started with iMovie. And little by little, the more I kept doing this repetitive stuff and the more it started piling up, that I had all these videos, or I had all these audio recordings, or all these pictures, and all these ideas. Like now I have books, and in my marble notebooks, I write every time I have an idea, I write it down on a page. And even while I'm writing it and I'm talking to myself, which I do a lot like a crazy person, I record myself. I put the camera in the corner, I sit there and I do it. Sometimes I do DoorDash, and while I'm doing DoorDash, I have my extra phone, I mount it on the thing. And as I'm coming up with ideas or anything like that, or just talking to myself like a crazy person, I record myself. And later on, if I don't transcribe it onto paper, I just keep the video and I edit it. But that's something that's become like, I kind of feel crazy now. And people always make fun of me because I'm always with two phones. And they're like, oh, you're Mr. Popular. It's like, little do they know, one phone has no service, no nothing. I just use it for the camera and to take pictures. It's like a little computer in my hand that I don't need to worry about if while I'm recording, someone calls me or texts me and then stops the recording or stops the stream or stops whatever. I use the phone specifically just to record and make content. And then I use the hotspot off of my old phone. And I've been doing it so long, like I said, for 3 years now, that after going from just my phone, it started bothering me, the quality of it. I started saving up little by little. Then I got a DSLR camera that I use. Well, first I got a regular point and shoot, and I was using one of these. And then I started getting tired of how fast the battery would die on these. So then I got one of these, no different than one of the ones that Casey uses. But it took me, it took a while. And that's something that I noticed that was a hurdle that I had to get off of, was two things. One, I had to stop thinking that I had to have the biggest and best, newest equipment out there to start making content. That was the first thing. And the second thing was that I needed to be patient as shit, so that I can learn that regardless of whether you have Final Cut Pro or you're using iMovie, or whether you're just using a regular cut and paste like editor on your phone or a free download or whatever, it doesn't matter as long as you're doing something. Because I've seen videos that are done with people who don't have any software and somehow they manage to edit and cut stuff. I've seen videos where people didn't even know about software and they're just recording from one phone to another and just actually cutting and stopping and pausing and like doing things like the hard way, but they're doing it. And the more and more I saw that, I was like, I got more than that person does as far as equipment wise when it comes to access to internet and free software, but they're putting out more stuff than me, or they're putting stuff out, period. So the more I started thinking like that, I started pushing myself to, you know what, I don't care what I have. If I have an idea for a video, I'm going to take out my phone. Or if not, I've even gone as far as asking my friend to let me use his phone because I didn't have a phone, and I would record because that's how much I just wanted to record something. But it all started with just basically getting over the fact that I didn't have the fancy new equipment. I could use whatever I can, and I had to be patient with learning not only how to use it, but how to get the best quality out of it. Despite if it can only go to 20, then you go to 20. If it can only go to 100, then you go to 100. If you go past that, then you go past that. But use what you have at your disposal to make something. But the whole thing is, if you have an idea, just make it. Because the more and more you come up with excuses, the whole thing of, oh, I don't have time, then it's, oh, I don't have an idea, or no one's going to care, or I don't have a good camera, or I'm too tired. It just goes on and on. And then you got to go backwards, and then you got to start crossing stuff off that list. So as soon as you get to that thing where you get a, oh, I don't, no, screw that. There's no I don't, you leave it there. It's okay. This is the problem. Now the mission is to come up with a solution to get rid of that, to keep going. If not, we're fucked. That's the whole, oh, sorry, I keep cursing a lot also, but that's
no
the whole
worries.
thing.
There's no filter.
Nice. But that was one of the things. It was stressing about the quality of what I had, whether it was the newest stuff out, and just being patient with learning how to use what I had to make something decent.
Dude, I love it. I love it. And I know you're not alone there with that one too. I had very similar thoughts as well. Like, I need all X, Y, and Z before I can go do this. That's never the case, right? Because then you go and observe somebody else in a different position with limited resources doing more than you are, and it really puts things into perspective. So
exactly.
Thank you for sharing, man. That's whew. Now, what keeps you going? Like your day to day. And I'm going to include multiple questions into this. There's multiple lines here, but I think it's all a part of the same thing. What keeps you going, and what's your vision? Like, what's 1 year out, 5 years out, and 10 years out with ClockNOut look like to you? And then what keeps you going in parallel with those questions?
Well, I'm going to be completely honest. What really made me even come up with trying to think of a name, to name something, to have an idea, to the whole thing that made me even want to just do something so that I don't have to worry about a 9-to-5 job, on my kids. I have 2 kids. I have a daughter and a son, Nevaeh and Austin. And I don't know how to explain it, but when you have a kid, everything changes, and it's like you went from just like your everyday, like I wake up, I do this, I go to sleep, I wake up, I wake up, oh my God, you're waking up also. What are you gonna do? Okay, you're with me, but what are you gonna do when you're not with me? And then when you have to be apart from your child, that other part of you, I have really bad anxiety and stress, and while I'm at work, I would stress so much, even though my daughter would be with her mother or family or whatever the case. In my head, I'm always thinking the worst thing possible. I'm like, this can happen. And the only thing that drives me crazy is I'm working for somebody for money, mopping a floor, taking out the trash, taking orders, doing this, doing that, putting money in their pocket while they're at home, chilling, relaxing. And God forbid something happens to one of my kids or someone I really care about, I'm here. And in my head, all I keep thinking was that every day, of course, everybody, they never want to be at their job. But it would really, like, I would have really bad panic attacks. Every day I'd be like, I'm about to do this, and I don't want to do this. What? And then the first thing that would pop in my head as a trigger is, what do you want to do? And all I would think about is being with my kids. I don't care if we're just sitting around watching TV. I don't care if we're playing. I don't care. Whatever it is. I don't care if they're sleeping next to me. I just wanted to be with my kids. I looked at it like it's an experience you're never going to have again. And like we've talked before, and a lot of people say time is it's like gold. It's the most valuable thing in the world. And it's like, screw a job, screw money and all this stuff. They print money. You could get a job whenever, but it's like, my kid is only going to be 2 years old for 2 years, and 3 years old for 3 years, and 5. And it's like, there's certain things from that you want to be there to either explain to them or experience with them for the first time. And I drove myself crazy with that, because growing up, I felt alone a lot because I was the only boy. So I was like, I don't want my son to feel alone. So I'm going to be with my son 24/7 and do boy stuff. And my daughter, I want to like teach her, this is how a boy should treat you and this. So I would be obsessive, like doing all this stuff. But then I'm like, I'm here at work. And it would bother me. Like, I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be stressed about making it on time. Meanwhile, I have to worry about leaving early to make it to my daughter's recital or her school play or whatever on time because I'm worried about my boss. Like, I didn't like the fact that I was scared of somebody when it came to me making a choice of what I wanted to do, which was be with my family, compared to what I needed to do, which was work and get money. But the more and more I thought about it, I was like, there has to be a way to like I said, I thought of a problem, and that was the problem. The problem solution is you go and you find another job and you like it for the first 6 weeks to 2 to 3 months, and then you get tired of the repetitiveness, and then you don't want to be there. Then you notice they're not paying you enough, and you don't like that job. And it's always a cycle. It doesn't matter. You can go, when you first start working, the first thing you think about is you just want a job. You don't care what you're getting paid. You get that job. Then you're getting paid $10 an hour. Then you go, oh, I can't stand this job. I do more than I get paid. If I had any other job and I got paid $15 an hour, I would love it. I would, even if it was doing the same thing I'm doing now. All I want is 15. Then you get that job. Then you're like, oh, I can't stand this. I'm tired of doing the same repetitive stuff. I want to do another job that's something useful and related to what I like doing, but I want to get paid more. And there's no stopping, because when you had that $10 job, you didn't have that when you didn't have it, you didn't have that $10 lifestyle. Now you got that $15 an hour job, and now you have that $15 an hour lifestyle. And the more that you change, instead of doing the things you know you should, like save money and put time towards what you want to do, we get stuck in the thing of, oh, we have to keep our boss happy. We have to make sure they're not upset. We have to show up on time early, but we never show up early or on time for the things that we want to do for ourselves. And that's something that kept bothering me. I felt like I was at the mercy of some guy that I never even met that owns this company that I'm struggling my ass off for to keep them happy just so I can keep a paycheck. Meanwhile, all I was doing was paying bills. This wasn't giving me more time with my kids. This wasn't making me enjoy my life with my kids, which is what I really wanted to do. But all I kept saying to myself is my kids have what they need. They're good. They're comfortable. But that wasn't the case. I know that what I really wanted was to be with my kids. So out of being selfish, I thought of what can I do to never have to work for nobody again so that I could do something I love doing and make a lifestyle out of it, or have an income come out of it and have a job where I do what I love, but at the same time, I'm helping people. I don't want to just create something just to get money. Like the more and more I thought about it, I was like, I would never want to create something to hire someone else to be like me, miserable at a place. If I'm going to make something, I want to make something that people are actually happy about going to, happy and that they'll brag about, like, listen, I got a job, or I'm working with, or I'm doing this, or so I noticed there wasn't a place like that existed to me. I haven't found that. And I've worked in every type, from retail to door-to-door sales, over-the-phone sales, the medical, in hospitals, nursing homes. I've done all that. And all I came across is that I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't learning anything that I could take with me and I could share with my kids, or I can share with anyone else that was useful. I was doing basic stuff. I was doing, okay, this is your job for the day. Check this off, do this, do that, and you'll get paid. And I didn't like that. I was doing a repetitive thing that I didn't like. I wasn't learning anything. It wasn't anything that I can take with me anywhere else that I could share. It was just experience that I could say, well, I did this, I did that, but it didn't mean nothing. So I started getting into the whole thing like, all right, what do I like doing? I like recording music. The whole music thing, after I got into it for so long, I was like, you know what, let me stop that. I still like entertaining people. I want to help people in the music industry so they don't get screwed over, because I see potential in it, but just in a different way. So the more I started dabbling in, at first just recording people musically, having them come over, use the studio, record their stuff, I noticed that while we were recording, I would hire someone to mix their stuff for them, and I would talk to them. And the more that I talked to them, I started noticing that I liked having conversations and hearing everybody's story. So then I would invite them, like, yo, come over, we'll have a drink and we'll just sit and talk. I want to hear more about what you learned working with this guy, or your experience doing this too early, or making this project, or what came about. And the more and more that came up, I started noticing, I was like, yo, I have conversations with people no different than these podcasters. Why don't I just record it? So that's how it all started, with the recording thing. And then I'm like, you know what, if I take the recording, what am I going to do with all these recordings? Just tell everybody, look, I recorded us talking. Then I started thinking, you know what, the same way I'm learning from them, the other people that listen can learn from them, as if they're here in the room with us. So I started putting it out there. Then I started thinking, okay, what's the number one issue all these independent people have? They don't have a support. Everyone's willing to, yeah, go and you got it. But I was like, what if there was a way to actually just give back to people in a way? Like, just because you listen to the podcast, or just because you listen to their song or their music. So I tried coming up with, all right, if I do this enough, I could basically come up with something to help promote these independent people by trying to present something presentable as a podcast, no different than if they were on a radio show. Everyone wants to be on, over here in New York, it's Hot 97 or BLI or any of those radio stations. And I'm like, what if I just did something that gave the experience of that, not only to, one, boost their confidence, two, show support, but do something presentable that they can afford, which is free, and give it to people that are willing to listen, or even for them to share it to anyone who follows them and any of their fans or supporters. So the more I thought about it, I was like, I just want to do something that I wish I had when I was an independent artist. I wish podcasting wasn't a thing when I was doing music. I was doing music back from like 2006 to 2012. And then I slowly started stopping and just doing regular recording. And then the last time I ever came out with a music project that I did was like in 2017, 2018, that I did like a mixtape thing. But even then I was like, I didn't even push it out because I still felt some type of way about it. But the whole time I kept thinking about it. If I put myself in their shoes, I got to think about the similarities and forget about all the differences. What's the main problem that all independent people have? And it's getting recognition for what they're doing, getting noticed, having people stop and take the time to see what they're doing and what they're working on. So I felt like I'm good at getting people's attention. I'm always on social media, like I mentioned earlier. I'm always on Twitter. So what if I put that to good use? And I feel like there's only so much of me in my boring life that people would want to see every day. Like, I'm drinking coffee today, kids. And like, but I'm like, if I have someone else that's actually doing more than me, but they don't have the time or the patience, or they just don't have the experience of wanting to be on social media, I'll just do it for them. Then at first I'm like, oh, well, who's going to pay you for that? But I'm like, I really don't want to get paid. Like, I feel like I do decent stuff, but nothing that's worth for you paying. So I was like, when and if that time comes, I'll do it. But just like starting with the basic camera and I'm like, you know what? I got to start. If I want to do a podcast and have this major idea, I got to start by doing the basics. So that's how it all, to make a long answer really short, but basically it's just, I wanted to come up with a solution for a problem that I had, that I felt that other people were having as well, which was try to focus. Like a lot of these radio stations and websites, like, yeah, we're focusing on the independent artists, but then there's a person that comes out that only recorded one song and they don't have a music video, they don't have this, they don't have that, and they get knocked down. And it's like, if you only gave them a little bit of your time and gave them that attention, little do you know, that's the spark that they needed to go and get more studio time, or to work on the next song, or to finish the current song that they're on. So I felt like if I did something like that, something similar of what I like to listen to, from the radio stations of Hot 97 and BLI and things like that, to the YouTube videos from Casey Neistat and his vlogging, to the podcast like Joe Rogan. I'm like, if I could find a way to mix up all those things and take what I like out of those stuff, from the videography, the quality, or the transitions from one thing to another, or the way that they seem like they're just talking random stuff and just saying whatever, but they have like a message in it somehow because of the way they told the story. I was like, I want to learn how to do that, and the only way to learn is by doing it. And I felt like I didn't have enough content in my own life personally to do or edit or make something. So I was like, why don't I just have guests and have them share their life, me learn from their experience, and as well share that with other people. So that's basically where it started. I thought that I can use that to make a job that doesn't exist yet, basically.
Yeah. No, dude, thank you for going in depth.
Yeah, sorry, I went real long.
It's all good.
You gotta stop me.
Good.
I'll talk a lot.
It's all good. I mean, let's get it rolling here. I want to be mindful of time too. We're coming up on 45 minutes here. So before we get to the outro, for anybody new tuning in, I do 7 speed questions, or it's a speed round with 7 questions rather. Generally 2 or 3 of the questions are more in depth, and then the rest are usually quick. They're usually one word versus the other, and then you say the first thing that comes to mind, and then you can go more in depth onto why if you'd like. But before we do that, I'd like to ask, what are 3 tips that you would have for anybody starting their own podcast or looking to start their own podcast right now?
First and foremost, just start. Don't keep thinking about it. If you want to do a podcast, just start recording. You don't have to put it out right away, but start recording, whether it's on video, whether it's on your voice notes for your phone, whether you get a little recorder or whatever, but just start recording. You don't have to share it with everyone, but I guarantee you the more that you start recording, even if it's just you watching it yourself, you'll get more comfortable. That's the first thing. Second thing, don't worry so much about having a theme or a niche or a topic specifically in the beginning. Just record yourself. You'll start noticing that the more you record yourself, you'll notice a pattern and you'll notice certain things that are repetitive that you like yourself. Whatever you feel you like, trust me, there's someone else out there that's going to like it also. And once you figure out that pattern, work on how to perfect that pattern. Like me, myself, I'm still working on it. I tend to talk a lot. So I'm working on ways how to cut my responses more and how to say everything I'm thinking in a shorter amount of time with specific words. So I noticed that the only way I can learn that is by just doing it. So start recording if you want to record. Don't worry about having a theme or a topic. And the other thing is be patient, not only with yourself, but be patient with what you have to learn, whether it's the equipment that you're using, the software that you're using, or even if you have to be patient with the way that it's going to build up. It may seem like no one's going to listen or nobody cares, but I'm telling you, trust me, there's somebody out there for everything. And so it does, as Gary says it, a lot of other content creators say it too. It doesn't matter whether it's about collecting stamps, peanut butter and jelly, or whether it's about food or the air or dirt. I guarantee you, if you make content on it and it's something that you care about and you show that you care about it and you have a passion for it and you respect it enough to present it properly, there's going to be people that are going to watch. So if you're going to record and you want to do something, start recording. Don't worry about a theme or a topic. And also be patient with yourself and what you with learning new things as you go.
I love it, man. Great 3 points. Very similar to what I would have said. I was kind of thinking about it midway through, but I wanted to pay attention first and foremost, because as I ask these questions, I sometimes ask myself in parallel. It's kind of crazy. Your introductions. So I'm actually going to tie this into the speed round. But yeah, actually, let me tie that question in, because I realize I accidentally asked a question already that was in the speed round above. This is what happens on BitmonkeyTV. We squirrel sometimes. So I mean, it's the norm. It's the norm. You just got to brush your shoulders off and keep moving.
Exactly.
So before we get started with the outro and the speed round with the 7 questions here, we do have a POAP for BitmonkeyTV as per usual. Today's secret phrase is at ClockNOut.
Nice.
Go ahead. Here's the instructions for today. The POAP channel should be active in Discord by now. I just toggled it on. Type in that secret phrase followed by your full-length public wallet address followed by the episode number. And just thank you for being here. We're gonna now some things to note moving forward. We do have a time limit on POAPs. So we always wanted to reward live streamers first and foremost. So if you post 15 minutes after we end the episode, or more than 15 minutes after we end the episode, I'm sorry, POAP is ineligible for distribution. Okay, just a little heads up. I've been noticing some things kind of trickle in a few hours after. We're paying attention, and this started last week. I believe I did mention something. So just some rules on how the POAPs work around here. And without squirrel ado, I want to get into the closing 7 questions for Gilberto here. Now, before we get started, we do things a little unusual around here. I'd love to give you the floor right now before the 7 questions to pitch, to shill, to share. I have included your link tree for ClockNOut Podcast, which includes all your major links in the bio of this YouTube post or stream. But please, I'd love to give you the floor real quick before we tune it into the speed round.
All right. So real quick, my name's Gilberto Aviles. On social media, I go by PR the King of Hearts or Bert McGurk. I have a podcast called Clocking Out, and what I try to do is I try to interview people and give them a platform, and use my platform that I'm building to help share anything from independent artists, independent business owners, content creators that have a service, a product, a brand, anything that they're trying to just share with people. I basically just have them on. I have them share information about whatever it is that they're working on, a little bit about themselves, and just try to do my best to make people aware of what they're doing. So if any of you are independent artists, content creators, business owners, so on and so forth, please reach out. Let me know. I'm looking forward to getting to know more people, learning more about what they have going on and how I can help them in any way I can.
I love it. Thank you. That's a clip in itself right there. So as you know, here with YouTube, you can download the episode after and clip it yourself. So feel free. As soon as I get through the timestamps on my end, I'm improving kind of like my post-stream checklist. And as soon as I'm off the road, and here I am making excuses after we talked about this whole episode. Stop making excuses.
No,
right?
No, it's true though. It's true.
Yeah, but it's been bit by bit, right? Each week I get a little better. Each week I improve. Each week I think about how to improve my process. Not only for me, but for you, right? For you, the guests, for you, the viewers. But it does start with me, right? How can I improve my time, my efforts, make it more likable? And the cool thing is it's always been likable, right? There's been a few days where I'm sure with you, with clocking out, where you're just tired. You don't want to record, but you do it anyway, right?
Exactly. Yep.
All right. So getting into the speed round 7 questions here. Number 1, quality or quantity?
Oof. Quantity.
Love it. And I meant to put that one as number 2, so forgive me. Number 1. Let's restart this.
Let's go.
All right, 7. We have the speed round 7 questions right here for Gilberto at ClockNOut Podcast. Number 1, what's one tip you have to help somebody improve their intro? Because I can't remember if I mentioned it earlier in the episode. I actually do. I did. Your intro is fire. And I'd love for you to share a tip or even 2 for somebody who's looking to improve theirs.
My intro, to be honest with you, I noticed that all my favorite content creators have like a thing that they do. They all just have like a snap or like a catchphrase or a look or like some type of thing. So I wanted to have something that was really good to start off the show. So what I basically did was I had my voice notes on my my phone, and I just kept saying things that I thought was good. I would hear certain things on the radio and I try to mimic it, but I used Clocking Out instead of their radio station. And the more I got comfortable with the tone, I would just start saying it out loud like it was a thing. And then I just landed on that intro. And the more I heard it, it was kind of cheesy, but I'm like, you know what? This works. It has like a cheesy, repetitive catchiness to it. And I'm like, you know what? I'm keeping it. So just as long as you say something you find catchy, just like Gary Vaynerchuk when he's like, this is the Gary V show, and like he does that little pause and that it's like those little things that I thought of and I kept in mind. So I was trying to find something that I could do it my own way. So I just kept playing around, and the more you repeat something, the more you start getting tired of repeating it, and you think of a faster way to say it or a more creative way to remember it or something, and it just came out to be that.
I love it, man. Thank you for sharing. That's awesome. I thought you were going to say it has a lot to do with your music background. I have a feeling your music background helped, right?
Yeah,
in
did.
a way,
it's
right?
Almost like it's just like coming up with a hook for a song or something like that.
I was about to say, because the way you use your voice, right, and project your voice rather, it's very professional. I'm like, damn, that's a professional introduction.
A little bit.
This is a professional radio show over here. Damn. All right. Question 2, quality or quantity? I know we asked this, but kind of starting over on the list. Love it. Question number 3, repetition or perfection?
Repetition, because I believe repetition leads to perfection.
Haha, love it. All right, beach or mountains?
Ooh. Damn, that's a tough one. I'm kind of scared of drowning, so we'll keep it in the mountains. I'll fight a bear.
Okay, love it. Passion or purpose?
Passion.
I love it. Glass half empty or half full?
Damn. To be honest, I gotta be honest. I would like to say half full, but I'm always looking at it half empty.
So that's solid self-awareness. One thing I've noticed throughout, I'm just going to chime in before the last question. I've noticed a ton of self-awareness on your end, right? You're aware of a lot of things. And I think that's just the first step to success, the first step to get to where you want to go. So
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Like, I just appreciate you putting yourself out there, answering all the questions, not saying no to any question. Last but not least, this is my favorite one. It's been consistent across since I think the first speed round, first or second. Question 7. What does happiness mean to you, and how do you define it?
Damn. Happiness, honestly, to me is finding just finding what brings you peace, what brings you joy. It's not easy to do, but once you find it, it's something that you shouldn't let go of without a fight. And it's worth fighting for. It's worth fighting for, worth fighting towards. So if there's something that you feel could even make you even a tiny bit happier than what you are now, go for it. Go for it, and don't worry about what you're gonna risk losing, because I guarantee you'll risk a lot more regretting not taking that chance. But I think that's what happiness is. It has to be something that just makes you feel whole and complete. I'm pretty sure a lot of people throughout life, the more that we go through life, we start feeling like something's missing, or we're not where we're supposed to be. But there's always ways to change that. You don't have to stay where you are. You can move to the left, to the right, front, back. You don't have to keep doing the same repetitive stuff every day. You don't have to do anything. It's just what makes you happy. If you can find any peace just staying by yourself, stay by yourself. If you find it with someone else, be with that other person. If you find it with a group of people, stay with them, and just share that with other people. The same way that you found your happiness, and it wasn't easy, it's not easy for the next person. So just share some advice, share your journey, because you don't know what that can mean to the next person.
Beautiful, man. Well said. Thank you for answering that one. So in depth as well. Man, I loved it. Thank you again for coming on the show. I think this has been
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Anytime, man. We got to run it back in the future.
Definitely.
Our title today, how to start a podcast in 2022. I want to build off of that, right? Today was definitely more of a one-on-one, allowing people to get to know you better, as well as me. I feel like each episode, everybody gets to know me a little bit better.
Exactly.
So, because, we're all unique individuals. So that's what makes us human, right? We're all human beings. So just got to say thank you to everybody tuning in. Thank you to everybody in the audience. All the comments. Jonathan, I got to shout out Jonathan. I know it's late. It's past midnight. It's past bedtime, I'm guessing. Shout out to the European crowd on the other side of the world. I know Coke and Click, Sakib, he's in here as well. He's on the other side of the globe. Like G-Van 365 and the 604. Sorry I didn't, chime in earlier, but thank you for watching. Thanks for your comments, man. Couldn't agree more. And Dream, as per usual. Zen, thank you to everybody. Gilberto, hope you have a good evening, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you very much. Have a good night. Thank you guys for having me.
Peace.
Peace. Take care.